revealed how Adanma, the incredible Python girl, transformed a greedy king's heart in 30 days. In a struggling town where the weight of dreams felt heavy against the gray sky, 12-year-old Adanma had always been different. With her pet python Luna, wrapped around her waist like a living belt, she was the girl who dared to be unique, the light in an otherwise drab world. But when the wealthy Ashford family rolled into town, everything began to shift. They marched in like a storm, claiming the title of community royalty, and looking down at the long-standing residents like misplaced shadows. Adanma's heart ached as she watched her mother work doubling shifts at the diner and factory, just to keep their modest home afloat. The Ashfords saw her family as relics of a bygone era, unworthy of respect. Rumors swirled, whispers of what can a girl and a snake do, stung like wasps, leaving Adanma trapped in a web of shame and anger. But in the quiet comfort of her room, the determination like fire ignited her spirit. I need to do something, she decided. The town's annual festival was approaching. It had always been a place for dreams and community, an opportunity to make life a little better. Adanma's idea was simple: raise funds for a local veterans' home. It was a chance to unite the community instead of letting the Ashfords tear them apart. She set to work, frantically creating colorful posters, making plans with her friends, and rehearsing a performance with Luna that would surprise them all. "This is our moment," she whispered to the snake as they practiced, her determination bolstered by a deep love for her mother and the community they lived in. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival day dawned, clouds rolled in uninvited. Raindrops fell from the sky like tears of a worried mother, just as the king of the Ashfords decided to use the storm to sow doubt. "Look at this pathetic attempt," he sneered, watching as Adanma struggled to keep the decorations from being blown away. But a fire ignited within her. Together with her friends, Adanma stepped onto the makeshift stage, rain drenching their clothes, and with a deep breath, she let her voice flow. "We are more than what they say. We're family. We care." As echoes of applause swelled around her, her heart thudded with hope. She could feel the crowd shifting, the old doubts melting away. But just as they began to rally, the Ashfords made a shocking announcement that could change everything. Can a small girl and her loyal python challenge the greed threatening to consume them? Adanma looked into the eyes around her, uncertain but ready. Would they stand with her, or let the darkness creep in? The future hung in the balance, waiting for that decisive moment. The rain poured harder, a torrent that mirrored Adanma's racing heart. As the Ashford king's voice rolled out over the crowd, his words were sharp enough to slice through the air. "I hereby declare," he announced, flaunting his wealth and power, "that anyone who contributes to this pitiful cause will be stripped of their privileges. Stay with us, and your future is secure." The threat hung heavy in the chilly breeze, and Adanma could see the flicker of worry spread across the faces of her friends and neighbors. But amid that cloud of fear, the light of determination flickered brighter in Adanma. She locked eyes with her closest friend, Aoife, whose face reflected her own mix of dread and resolve. "We can't let him win," Adanma whispered fiercely, emboldened by Luna's warmth against her waist. "We have to show everyone our strength." With a deep breath, Adanma stepped forward. Luna, sensing her tension, tightened her grip around Adanma's waist, a silent pledge of support. "Turning away from our community just because of threats? That is not who we are." Adanma's voice rang clear. "We have a chance to make a change today. We have to stand together." At first, there was silence. Adanma could see some people leaning into their uncertainties, glancing toward the wealthy Ashford family. But then, like a wave breaking against the shore, a voice broke through the stillness. It was Mr. Thompson, the town's mechanic, a man who had seen hard times and even harder choices. "She's right," he shouted, his voice weathered yet strong. "We've come too far to let fear control us." Cheers erupted. hesitant at first but quickly gathering momentum. A chorus of voices joined in, each one louder than the last. "We're family. We're not afraid." It surged through the crowd, lifting spirits like balloons released into the sky. Women clasped hands, and men hugged those beside them, a collective warmth rising against the chill. The Ashfords shifted uncomfortably, but their confidence seemed to falter under the unwavering spirit of the townsfolk. Adanma felt her heart soar. "You all have come here today with open hearts. Even in this storm, kindness shines through." She took a step closer to the edge of the stage, eyes gleaming. "Let us prove today that love for our community is stronger than any threat." A sudden flash of lightning illuminated her face, and the crowd grew silent again, as if holding its breath. Then, one by one, people began to pull out their wallets. Coins clinked as they were dropped into the collection box. Crumpled bills fluttered above heads, like hopes taking flight. Adanma couldn't believe her eyes. They were uniting, pushing back against the storm that sought to divide them. As the storm raged, laughter and shouts of victory mixed with thunder, creating a symphony of resistance. But just as the tide turned, Adanma caught sight of the Ashford King's face, twisted in rage. "This isn't over," he bellowed, his voice cracking like the thunder above. Adanma felt a chill run down her spine. She knew this was merely the beginning of his wrath. With determination filling her heart, she took a deep breath, ready to rise to the occasion. She had awakened a spark in her community, but it felt like the heavy clouds were not finished testing their resolve. Would they withstand the storm fully? Or would the Ashfords find a way to extinguish their light? The answer hung there, volatile, electric, and uncertain. Adanma looked around at her friends and neighbors, their eyes reflecting both fear and hope. Would they falter, or would they rise again? The next moment would decide everything. The rain didn't let up. Each drop felt like a reminder of the stakes at play. Adanma stood strong, her heart thumping loudly in her ears, drowning out the lingering thunder that echoed in the distance. She glanced at Luna, whose wide eyes sparkled with fierce loyalty, and then back at the crowd. The energy was electric, a potent mixture of fear and newfound courage. "Everyone we've made a stand today," Adanma called, gripping the railing tighter. "But this fight isn't just for today. It's for our future." The cheers seemed to ripple through the masses again, stronger this time, syncing with her heartbeat. The Ashfords might have wealth, but they didn't have the spirit that pulsed through the veins of the townsfolk. Suddenly the Ashford King stepped forward, his face pale and narrowed with fury. Adanma felt a shiver race down her spine. "You're all fools," he shouted, his tone dripping with disdain. "You think this is some game? I own this town. I control its heart." The tension hung in the air, as thick as the rain. "Your wealth means nothing when it's built on fear," Mr. Thompson shouted back, his voice steady and rising over the chaos. Adanma felt a swelling pride as others began nodding in agreement. It was the beginning of something magnificent. But just as Adanma felt the tide of support lifting her, a harsh voice pierced through the crowd's energy. It was Mrs. Ashford, resplendent and threatening, stepping beside her husband. "You all will regret this," she warned, eyes flashing. "You'll lose everything you treasure. What of your homes? Your jobs?" Her words echoed in the silence that followed, a dark cloud overshadowing their determination. Adanma stepped down from the platform, moving closer. She had to ground them, connect deeply. "What we treasure isn't in the hands of the Ashfords," she pleaded, her voice rising again. "It's right here in this community. It's our bonds, our dreams. None of that can be taken away if we stand together." The soft gasps filled the void. The ice of fear began to crack as belief spread like wildfire among their hearts. "Together," echoed the crowd. "Together." A wild energy surged in her chest. The force of unity was palpable, and for a moment, Adanma felt invincible. But doubt flickered at the edge of her mind. How much longer would this last? Could they truly sustain it against the onslaught of the Ashfords' intimidation? As rain continued to pour, she spotted the children in the crowd, their small faces glued to their parents' sides. They were the innocent, the future of the town. "We're doing this for them," Adanma shouted, her voice rising above the wind. "What kind of world do we want to create? Fear won't work. Fear doesn't last. But love. Love builds cities. Just then, however, a figure broke through the crowd. Rendell, the Ashfords' loyal but conflicted aide. When he stumbled to the front, covered in rain and dirt, the crowd fell silent again. They all knew him as a man torn between duty and right. He looked up, meeting Adanma's eyes, and for a heartbeat, an invisible connection sparked between them. "What will this really cost us, Adanma?" he asked, the vulnerability in his voice palpable. "What if the Ashfords take everything we hold dear?" Adanma felt the weight of his question. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about a wave of change crashing towards something uncertain and new. "Together," she whispered, but even then, uncertainty hung heavy in the air. The rain continued to wash over them, each drop releasing hope mingled with fear. The crowd had to make a decision. Would they rise to the challenge, or retreat into shadows cast by greed? As Adanma stared into the faces of those she loved, she realized they were at a crossroad that would define not just their home, but their very hearts. Could she, the girl who dared to dream, turn the tide? And was she ready for whatever would come next? The rain was relentless, drenching everyone in a rhythmic downpour that seemed to amplify the gravity of the moment. Adanma's heart raced, the echoes of Rendell's doubts swirling around her mind. The crowd shifted, their breaths held, as they anticipated her response. She felt the weight of their trust, a load she desperately wanted to bear. "Rendell," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm. "The Ashfords may have their money, but we have our hearts. We have each other." Her words sliced through the tension, reigniting the fire in their bellies. Faces once adorned with worry relaxed into expressions of hope and determination. Suddenly, a child's voice rang clear from the back of the crowd. "What do we do if they come for us?" The question struck like a lightning bolt, revealing the fear that lingered beneath their courage. Adanma met the small, frightened face of a boy, and her heart ached. "Then we stand together," she shouted, her voice rising to a passionate crescendo. "We protect our homes. We protect our futures." The crowd began to murmur again, a low rumble that grew into a wave of agreement. But it was Mrs. Ashford's laughter that shattered the moment. She threw her head back, her icy mirth cutting through the solidarity Adanma had begun to forge. "Protect yourselves?" she mocked. "With what? Your empty words? Your dreams? The Ashfords will crush you. Take everything from you until you're left with nothing." Rendell's eyes flickered between Mrs. Ashford and Adanma, caught in the tumult of a battle raging within him. Adanma could see the conflict etched on his face, and somehow she understood. He just a tool of the Ashfords. He was a person, to a man trying not to drown in his own choices. "Rendell," she called softly, stepping closer, feeling the rain around them fade into a warm haze as she focused on him. "You can choose a different path. Help us fight for the town you grew up in." For a moment he looked lost, as if standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to leap into uncertainty or retreat to the safety of the familiar. Then his expression hardened, and he turned to the crowd. "Even if I wanted to help, how could we possibly stand against the Ashfords?" Adanma stepped forward with fierce conviction. "We don't have to fight with violence. This is not a war of fists but of hearts and souls." A knowing murmur rippled through the crowd as they took in her words. The fear in their eyes began to shift to something else. Resolve. It was a spark, and sparks could grow into flames. Just then, a thunderous noise broke the air, horse hooves racing down the cobblestone street, echoing ominously. Heads turned as men in stern armor appeared under a banner emblazoned with the Ashford crest. Fear rippled through the crowd again, anxiety creeping back like a dark mist. "Adanma," Luna cried, grabbing her arm, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming for us." Adanma blinked against the downpour, chest tight as she felt the weight of each frightened gaze on her. They looked to her for courage, but fear surged within her like the storm raging above. So much was at stake now, and the Ashfords were coming to snatch it all away. As the soldiers reined their horses in front of the crowd, the tension grew. Adanma took a breath, knowing she had to face this moment head-on. "Stay strong," she yelled, her voice slicing through the fear. "We're not alone." But as the soldiers dismounted, weaving between the rain-soaked chaos, uncertainty tugged at her heart. Would her words be enough this time? The first soldier stepped forward, a glimmer of familiarity lighting his face. Adanma squinted through the downpour, heart racing. It was Lucas, the Ashfords' young banner-bearer. In that moment, she felt the tide of fate shifting, yet her chest tightened with the realization that everything could change in an instant. What was he going to do? Would loyalty still dictate his actions, or had her words begun to sink in? As the crowd held its breath, Adanma knew this moment would define not just their fight but their very souls. But would courage flow through Lucas, or would fear rule again? The tension hung thick in the air, a weight almost heavy enough to drown out the relentless rain. Adanma's heart pounded louder as Lucas stepped closer, his brow furrowed in a storm of confusion and conflict. The once familiar boy who had played in the fields, now bearing the weight of expectation from the Ashfords, seemed a world away. Adanma, he called her name, voice barely audible above the rain, yet it pierced through the cacophony like a beacon. You shouldn't be here. This is dangerous. Is it more dangerous than sitting back and letting them take everything? She countered, desperation creeping into her tone. You know what they're really like. This isn't just about us, it's about the future of everyone. Something flickered in his eyes, a shadow of uncertain loyalty clashing against the harsh realities of his upbringing. The Ashfords had shaped him, molded him to see the world in terms of power and privilege. Yet here stood Adanma, challenging everything he had been taught. Look around you, she urged, sweeping her gaze over the crowd. These people love and care for one another. They fight not for gold or status but for family and home. You know this, Lucas. You felt it. He hesitated, and the atmosphere thickened with the weight of his indecision. The winds swirled, mixing the scents of rain and earth, the beat of a town that refused to surrender echoing in the spaces between their words. But it was the laughter again that broke the moment. How amusing! Mrs. Ashford chimed in, her dissonant laughter ringing like chimes in the tempest. A band of fools trusting a lost boy. Her words sliced through Adanma's resolve, and a flash of frustration coursed through her. You underestimate them, she shouted, gesturing to the crowd standing with her, drenched through but undeterred. They're not afraid of your threats. Lucas stiffened at the older Ashford's taunt, a flicker of anger swelling in his chest. How could she mock the very people who showed kindness and warmth when he had known nothing but the cold nature of wealth? And yet, the soldiers behind him shifted uneasily, as if the very foundation of their dominance was being called into question. Adanma, Lucas started, his voice cracking under the weight of his next words. I please, she whispered fiercely, advancing a step closer. Grounded by a hidden well of strength. Don't let them drown hope. The Ashfords thrive on fear, on the belief we're powerless. But together, we are stronger. Her conviction radiated through the air like the shimmer of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. And she could see it, this flicker in Lucas's eyes. This emergence of courage battling against his conditioned fear. Could he really choose to stand with them? Suddenly, Rendell's echoed in the rainstorm as some townsfolk took a step forward, their shoulders squared. They had come too far to blend back into the shadows. They were ready to embrace this fight, hearts pounding with resolve. Make your choice, Adanma urged, her voice steady, as the thunder rolled overhead, mirroring the storm within. Will you stand with us? Speak against what is wrong. In that charged instant, the world narrowed around Lucas. He drew in a ragged breath, weighed down by expectation and the longing to break free. Could he turn his back on everything he'd known? But then something inside him shifted. Memories of friendship, laughter, and light came flooding back. Wasn't this what he had always wanted? As silence fell, everyone's eyes turned to him, hope flickering like a candle in the dark. Lucas? Adanma's voice was soft yet commanding, wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. In that moment, what Lucas did next would reverberate through their world, tilting the balance of power against all odds. He could feel the strength of the crowd behind him, could feel the pull of a different future tugging at his heart. Could he embrace it? And just as he opened his mouth to speak, the ground shook beneath the stark thunderclaps. The heavy hooves of more soldiers thundered behind them, charging on that very moment. Would they finally take a stand, or would fear win once more? The earth trembled with each thunderous hoofbeat, reverberating through Lucas as he battled the swirl of emotions inside him. Was this finally the moment he had been waiting for, or the moment that would shatter everything he held dear? He looked into Adanma's eyes, seeking the answer, finding only a fierce determination anchored in that familiar warmth. The soldiers charged, their intent clear: to silence the defiance of this gathering once and for all. Lucas's pulse quickened, but behind him, the soldiers hesitated, their commanders glancing among themselves, uncertainty glinting in their eyes. Perhaps they were not as invincible as Mrs. Ashford believed. "Adanma," he finally shouted over the cacophony of the storm. "You're right. I can't stand by and let fear dictate our future. Not anymore." The crowd gasped collectively, and for a heartbeat, the world stopped. Lucas turned slightly, taking in the tens of faces filled with hope and defiance. Their very presence was a challenge to everything he had been trained to uphold. But now, the fires of loyalty burned bright within him, ignited by Adanma's spirit. With a calculated breath, he stepped forward, feeling the weight of the Ashford legacy pressing down on him, grow heavier yet lighter at the same time. "We've let the Ashfords dictate our lives for too long. No more." His voice rang out, clear over the storm, bringing a stir among the crowd. "For those who stand with me," Adanma called, her eyes shimmering with tears of hope. "For our future, and for our families." As thunder rolled overhead, they raised their fists, their unity sharpening the air around them. Lucas felt their resolve build, an almost palpable wave, and it washed over him like the rain, refreshing, freeing. He understood now that this was not just a fight against the Ashfords. It was a fight for their very souls, their identity, and their right to hope. Yet, in that pivotal moment, Mrs. Ashford stepped forward, her voice slicing through the rain. "Foolish children," she scoffed, a sneer forming on her lips. "Do you think you can defy me? I am the Ashford legacy, and I will not be stopped by the likes of you." The soldiers behind her surged forward, a wall of imposing figures armed with authority. Lucas's heart raced. The challenge was becoming real, not just words shouted into the storm. "We can't let them intimidate us," he shouted, pushing down his own fear. "Together," Adanma yelled, her voice soundtracking the chaos. The townsfolk echoed her call, a roar building as the rain fell like a curtain around them, drumming the tempo of war. But then, as the soldiers advanced, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the night sky, breaking through the dense clouds, stunning everyone into silence. It was as if the heavens themselves had answered their call. Lucas shielded his eyes from the sudden intensity, feeling the crowd reel back, waiting for him to lead. "In this light, we see the truth," he shouted, feeling courage swell. "We are not just against the Ashfords. We are for everything that is good. For love and loyalty, for home and family. This is our time." Yet as he spoke, he could see Mrs. Ashford's expression shift, the smirk on her face melting into something colder, darker. "Then you'll regret this," she hissed, signaling to her soldiers. With the forward thrust of the soldiers, the swarm of bodies was upon them, and chaos erupted. All at once, it turned into a furious storm of limbs and shouts, a tempest swirling amidst the rain. Lucas's heart hammered furiously. Could they really withstand this charge? Would they be together, or would fear rip them apart? He drew a breath, eyes searching for Adanma among the chaos. Ready for the true fight ahead. Was this just the beginning of their struggle? Or would it be the moment that defined them all? Adanma's voice carried above the fray, a beacon in the storm. "Stay together. We fight for each other." She moved through the crowd, her presence as potent as the lightning flashing above. Lucas's heart soared at the sight of her resolute spirit, grounding him in the midst of chaos. He pushed his way toward her, feeling the energy of their people rallying, but also the pressure of the soldiers tightening like a noose. The air crackled with tension. Lucas could see the soldiers kept advancing, the glint of their weapons caught in the flashes of turbulent light. Mrs. Ashford stood behind them, a master of her puppets, every flick of her wrist commanding fear. "Do not fear. We stand united," Lucas shouted, willing the words into the hearts of those around him. He felt their hope, their need for change. It surged through him, fueling the courage he didn't know he possessed. The crowd responded, a wave of voices echoing back, cascading into chants. "United! United!" Their fear began to dissipate, energy replacing it like dawn on a dark night. Lucas's heart raced, but he was not afraid anymore. He was fighting for something palpable, something real. It was then that he spotted the first soldier breaking through the front lines, his armor catching the flickering light. Lucas's instincts kicked in. "Adanma," he called out, signaling for her to take the side flank. She nodded, determination lighting up her features, and they split, instinctively moving in sync as they faced their adversaries. The soldiers crashed into the crowd, shouting orders, but the chants continued. Each clash of bodies echoed thunderously, every strike of fist against armor ringing out like war drums. As Lucas joined the fray, he felt the taste of adrenaline, the hot rush of fear mingling with resolve. He squared his shoulders and fought back, not for himself, but for his community. Each blow thrown, each stance taken, was fueled by the faces around him, friends, family, neighbors. Together, their unity felt like an anchor in wild waters. Adanma was a force of nature beside him, gracefully dodging the attackers and retaliating with defiance. Lucas watched in awe as her movements reminded him vividly of those tales about warriors strong, fierce, and relentless. Together, they were a tempest. Suddenly a shout rang out. "Form a line! Hold the line!" It was an unfamiliar voice, but it cut through the roar. Lucas turned to see other townsfolk joining the fight, creating a barrier of bodies alongside him and Adanma. His heart swelled at the sight, their defiance coalescing into an unbreakable chain. In the chaos, Lucas felt the ground shift. An unsettling rumble sounded beneath them, as if the very earth itself was rallying to their cause. Hope flooded him, a wave crashing over all doubts. They could shape their destiny. They could change the narrative penned by the Ashfords. But Mrs. Ashford was not ready to concede defeat. She raised her hand again, and an imposing figure stepped forward, her most loyal enforcer. His face was a mask of fury, eyes locked on Lucas, vowing retribution. "Enough of this nonsense," he shouted, his voice booming over the storm. The crowd fell into a momentary hush, tension palpable in the air as he stepped forward, armored head to toe, cutting a foreboding silhouette. Lucas's heart slammed in his chest. "Prepare to be crushed," he roared, and in that instant, Lucas understood the gravity of what they had ignited. They were not just fighting for their present. They were fighting for the future. Lucas took a breath, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could not falter now. They could win. But how much would it cost? What lay ahead would test them all, and Lucas felt the weight of that truth settle onto his shoulders. As he shared a quick glance with Adanma, he sensed the echo of her unwavering spirit in him. Then, with a battle cry that pierced through the storm, they charged forward, ready for whatever dark fate awaited them. The clash erupted around them, a cacophony of shouts and the clash of steel. Lucas felt as if he were caught in the heart of a hurricane, spinning and thrashing as chaos reigned. Adanma was just a breath away, her fierce determination pushing him to fight harder. He could see the resolve in her eyes, an unyielding fire amid the tempest. In the thick of the brawl, Lucas's mind raced. How could they possibly turn this tide? Each soldier that fell only seemed to empower the rage of the ones behind them. But then he remembered the townsfolk sturdy and brave, standing shoulder to shoulder. As one voice rose against the assault, Lucas pushed forward. "They can't take us all," he shouted, rallying his neighbors. The crowd roared in agreement, the spirit of resistance roaring louder than the storm itself. But the enforcer, looming and formidable, surged towards them through the chaos. Lucas felt fear twist within him, but he channeled it into focus. With each step closer, he saw not just an enemy but also a representation of everything they fought against. Adanma swung at the soldier to his right, and Lucas mirrored her movements, dodging and striking in unison. Together, they realized the rhythm of their fight, an unspoken language guiding them through the melee. With a swift movement, Adanma ducked low, drawing the attention of the enforcer. "Lucas, now," she called out, and without thinking, he launched himself forward. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing in. As the enforcer swung wide, Lucas ducked underneath, and landed a punch directly at the armor's joint. The metal creaked, and he felt a surge of elation as the soldier stumbled back, thrown off balance. "Keep him distracted, I have an idea," Adanma shouted, her voice strong and unwavering. Lucas nodded, adrenaline blinding any lingering fear. He was fighting not just for victory, but for hope, a better tomorrow. He could feel it like a heartbeat beneath his skin. Curtains of rain fell heavily, drenching them in its chill. It mixed with the sweat and blood of battle, a baptism of sorts. Lucas and Adanma danced around the enforcer, a tandem that blurred the lines between courage and desperation. But as they struck, Lucas kept feeling the weight of his community behind him growing stronger, lending support as if their very spirit were merging with his own. Suddenly, the enforcer roared with rage. "You think you're stronger than the Ashfords?" His voice thundered, shaking the ground beneath them. The moment sent a shiver through Lucas. He could see uncertainty flicker in the eyes of some soldiers, especially those who had once hidden behind their armor. "Together!" Lucas shouted, giving voice to the crowd still chanting, still pushing forward. "Together, we're unstoppable." Their chants intertwined with the rain, harmonizing in a way that felt almost sacred. With explosive energy, Adanma found an opening. "Now!" she cried, as she lunged forward. Lucas charged, and a powerful strike shattered the enforcer's stance. He fell, and an unforeseen silence draped the battlefield, momentarily halting the chaos. But in that silence, a seed of doubt grew. Lucas's heart hammered in his chest. If they could bring down one of Mrs. Ashford's enforcers, could they truly topple the entire regime? As adrenaline coursed through him, a new fear whispered. What if Mrs. Ashford had even more powerful allies lurking just beyond the fight? The look in the soldier's eyes shifted, the uncertainty flickered like embers threatening to spark anew. "Get ready," Adanma said, confidence fueling her words. "This is just the beginning." Lucas breathed deeply, feeling the storm's fury still raging around them but resolute. He no longer fought just for their future. He fought for the truth that binds them. And as they prepared to face whatever came next, the question loomed larger than ever. How far would they go to reclaim their home? The battle had only just begun. The silence that followed the enforcer's fall was deafening, yet it spoke volumes. Lucas's breath quickened, and the world around them blurred momentarily, as if time froze to heighten the importance of that single moment. Adanma's eyes, fierce and unwavering, were locked onto his, and he could see her thoughts mirroring his own. What next? As if on cue, the ranks of Ashford's soldiers stirred. The combatants who had for a moment lost heart now recovered their zeal, fueled by desperation and anger. Lucas could sense the room filling with hostility as the soldiers behind the enforcer snarled, unease morphing into blind fury. "Back to back!" shouted Lucas, taking his place beside Adanma. They formed a small but formidable barricade as the tide of soldiers surged toward them. "I don't think they plan to back down," Adanma observed grimly, brandishing her weapon with a newfound intensity. "We need to push forward." "Together," Lucas affirmed. Their voices intertwined, words mingling with the pounding rain, and the distant cries of townsfolk rallying once more. He felt an energy rise in the air, a pulsating charge that set his heart racing anew. It was more than just a fight. They were part of something much larger, something that might just move mountains. Tara, the healer who had aided them before, pushed through the chaotic sea of bodies. "Lucas!" she yelled, her eyes wide. "The Ashfords have sent for their own reinforcements. We don't have much time." The realization crashed over Lucas like the cold rain. Reinforcements? His determination flickered but quickly reignited. "We can't let them reach the townsfolk," he cried, glancing sideways at Adanma. "Then we hold them here," she replied with fierce conviction. "For every one of us they take down, we take two of them." With the resolve of an unyielding force, Lucas felt fear slip away, replaced with purpose. He understood now that every swing of his weapon, every shout of encouragement, fostered the resistance that surged from behind them. It was more than just survival. It was reclaiming the hope that had been buried under oppression for far too long. The soldiers advanced, but their unity became an anchor. Lucas swung his sword wildly, adrenaline coursing through him as he parried blow after blow, fueled by the faces of the townsfolk he fought to protect. He could see familiar faces among the crowd, people he had grown up with. Each swing felt personal now. This was their fight. Adanma hardly paused, her movements a blend of powerful strikes and deft dodges. "To the front!" she shouted, eyes blazing, igniting the fire in those around them. Together, they pushed back, driven by a shared dream of freedom. Suddenly, A flash of silver darted from the chaos, a new player stepping up to the fight. Lucas squinted through the rain, recognizing the insignia emblazoned on the newcomer's chest. That S an Ashford crown. He gasped. More than one enforcer then, Adanma muttered. Panic threatened to seep in, but Lucas squeezed her shoulder. We can do this. We have to protect our home. As the enforcer approached, he radiated confidence, and a silent message lingered in his steely gaze. This fight was far from over. Then he called out, his voice cutting through the clang of metal and mingled shouts. Is it true? You think you can challenge the Ashfords? Lucas and Adanma exchanged a glance, momentary uncertainty painted across their faces. But it was just enough for the townsfolk to rally. They shouted back, voices rising over the din. Yes. We dare to dream. The moment shifted again, a collective heartbeat across the battlefield. Then let us see just how far you're willing to go, the enforcer declared, and the air thickened, charged with tension. Lucas could feel the storm brewing, both within the sky and in the hearts around him. Was this the moment where everything shifted? Or had they merely woken a sleeping giant? With no time for hesitation, he clenched his fists tighter, watching as the battle unfolded around them. Would their courage remain steadfast against the might of the Ashfords? The shadows loomed, large, but they stood determined, ready to face whatever came next. The sun broke through just as the chaos reached its peak, casting golden rays upon the tumultuous battlefield. Adanma felt the warmth on her skin, igniting a fire within her heart. This was a moment of clarity, a turning point where fear collided with hope. Together, she yelled, her voice unwavering and laced with conviction. The townspeople echoed her cry, rallying around her like a powerful tide against the forces of the Ashfords. Lucas stood shoulder to shoulder with Adanma, feeling the pulse of his community behind them. They were breaking through, past the walls of oppression that had shrouded their town for too long. The new enforcer, a man garbed with the Ashford legacy, started to charge forward, but something in the atmosphere had shifted, and both soldiers and townsfolk felt it. Hold the line, Lucas shouted to his neighbors, fists clenched as he prepared to meet the oncoming wave. But as they held fast, he saw something remarkable, a glimmer of doubt in the eyes of the Ashford soldiers, slowly ebbing hope with every rallying cry from the townsfolk. Adanma now, he shouted as he noticed a gap forming to their right. The two of them bolted forward together, slipping through the wall of steel and armor, adrenaline surging as they aimed to strike at the heart of the Ashford's arrogance. As they pushed through, their combined energy became a beacon. We're stronger together. They rallied, and the townsfolk surged forward behind them, each person grasping onto that newfound strength. Then, the unexpected happened. A soldier from the Ashford side took a step back, shaken by the collective courage that enveloped the air. It was a small act, but it was enough to send ripples through the ranks. What are we fighting for? He asked, doubt creeping into his voice, a question that seemed to linger. Stand for what is right, Adanma called out, and in an instant, dozens of townsfolk shouted louder, join us. The soldier faltered, the weight of his armor feeling burdensome as he hesitated. Lucas recognized the change, and sensed the tides beginning to shift. With their numbers increasing, Adanma and Lucas advanced further, finding themselves at the forefront against the enforcer. The world around them felt strangely suspended, yet charged with possibility. Do you truly think you can overthrow us? The enforcer roared, his arrogance cracking slightly under the weight of the crowd's resolve. His confidence faltered, and Lucas seized the moment. Don't you see? He shouted, pointing at the growing movement behind them. This isn't just about us. It's about freedom. About hope. We are reclaiming our future. As if in answer, the crowd erupted. The chants swelled, rolling over the enforcer, drowning him in their unity. United we stand. United we fight. In that instant, a flicker of fear could be seen in the enforcer's eyes as he processed what was happening. You're just children. He spat, but his voice lacked the strength it once held. Adanma reached for Lucas' hand. Their grip tight yet comforting, two hearts beating as one, standing firm as solid ground formed beneath them. We are so much more than that, she replied confidently. We are a community. Then unexpectedly, the soldier that had stood with hesitation now shaken dropped his weapon, his choice echoing like a rallying cry. It was enough to shatter the Ashford's momentum. And one by one, their soldiers began stepping down, rejecting the culture of fear, instead choosing solidarity with the people they had unknowingly hurt. The enforcer turned to his comrades, the realization hitting him hard. "What are you doing?" he demanded, but his voice echoed into silence as the townsfolk surged forward, emboldened by the show of defection. "How far do you think we'll go?" Adanma declared, drawing closer beside Lucas. "Farther than you think. With each step we take, we carry the hopes of everyone who has ever had their light dimmed by greed." With unyielding spirit, the growing force advanced, overtaking what had once felt like an eternal struggle. They were a formidable river of hope pushing against a crumbling dam of darkness, and the Ashfords could feel it. Then against the backdrop of the looming storm above, the tide turned. Amid the surging hopes from her own community, Lucas could hear Adanma's cheers merging with the voices of children, elders, and everyone in between. "Together" became their mantra, lifting them, each word like a brushstroke painting their future brighter than any oppression could ever darken. As fear faded from the Ashfords' hold, it could be seen in the eyes of their once mighty enforcers, the realization that their reign was crumbling beneath the weight of a united heart. And then it happened, the Ashford banner fell, abandoned. With that, Lucas and Adanma surged forward, leading their people into the heart of what had once seemed unbeatable. The future stood before them, shimmering with potential, strength, and the pride of standing against adversity, side by side. Finally, they emerged from the storm not just as a town, but as a family. They had transformed, together, from fear into boundless hope, into the promise of tomorrow. Together. Adanma cried again, and the response thundered in unison. Together. The Ashfords would not win. And in that moment, with the storm clouds parting and sunlight pouring down, they knew. They had opened a new chapter, one where kindness, community, and love would shine brightly, illuminating their way forward. The moment was theirs, and the world had forever changed. So, if you felt the power of their fight, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second. This is the moment to show your support and continue to follow the journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, helping others find this transformative story. And please comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you, to know how it touched your heart. Lastly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us keep this amazing community alive.